Welcome, world. This is the NRNRC Black Table Talk podcast, and today is Happy Friday. Happy Friday out there, world. It is February 2nd, 2024, and a little bit after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we'll have a little special topic with, the special guests, and that us being staff. We're there definitely very special. But what we're going to talk about today is returning citizens adjusting to the work environment and society. And we got a few returning citizens with us, and we're going to just, speak about our experiences and what it's been like for us, to return to freedom and being in this new workplace. And before we do so, we're going to introduce our panel. And to my left, we have
Joseph Washington.
And to my far right, we have
Damon Jones.
And in the middle, we have
Foster Sellers.
And here I am on Travis Register, y'all. We're going to kick this thing off, and I'm going to start with Mr. Damon Jones. You did 28 years, bro. And I don't know if you actually had a job while you was in prison. A lot of times, it depends on where we at. We have to have a job, and sometimes they just throw us in the workplace of the rec yard, or they might throw you in the education and things of that manner. But if you had a job and while you was incarcerated, tell us what it was, and then how it contrasts to the work you've done since you've been out here in the free world.
Oh, so playing poker don't qualify.
Definitely is not qualified, bro.
Other than that, I think I worked in I was incarcerated for so long. I think I worked in food service for a while, worked in recreation for a while. But what was you asking as far as
how does work in prison differ from work out here in the free world?
Well, you got to be, you're held more accountable. In the free world, a lot more responsibilities. It's the same concept, but when you're in prison, we were getting paid 70 cents an hour, something to that effect, 26 cents an hour. I forgot what the number was. I try to erase all that stuff from my mind, but so if you make it 26 cents an hour, and they fire you, it's just basically the just having to be responsible, man, and taking stuff more serious, out here in this real world.
Mr. Sellers, how's things different from you, for you, from incarceration as opposed to work in the free world?
For me, it was an adjustment to learning how to reapply myself. I felt like, for a period of time, I wasn't able to contribute to the workforce, and I had to figure out or make a plan to do something about that. So, I applied myself and, found myself working here at the Reentry Network and got myself back on track. But one of the biggest things that I noticed about working in, this environment and making the adjustment is learning how to deal with authority. And what I mean by that is sometimes you might have a certain way that you might think about something, or you might have a new idea, but because of your background or because of the time that you've been out of the workforce, you're not used to being under someone else's authority and them telling you, this is how I like things done, and finding when the appropriate time for you to contribute to sharing your ideas on how you want to actually contribute to the organization's style or structure of how they go about doing their business here or anywhere or any organization you work for. But one of the biggest adjustments for me was just learning about how to deal with the authority in the actual workplace and making that adjustment.
That's a pretty valid point there. Because we talking about two different types of culture, and one as opposed to the other. And we're creatures of habit, and we can get accustomed to things real fast. And we think it's the normal, and that's the way it's supposed to be. But then we come out here, it's like, hey, there's a culture shock, and it's like, nah, I know how to work. I've been doing this for so long. I've been doing this, X, Y, Z. I've been doing this. I've been doing that. But it's like, okay, but that was in there. Here's out here's a little different. And as Mr. Jones was saying, it's like, man, while we getting paid 26 cents an hour, 70 cents an hour, things of that matter. So it's like, we're not really, the officers are going to get their money anyway. So they're not, unless you're in Unicor or some type of industries or like commissary or something like that, they're not really on you like that. So they'll just allow you to go on through because they're gonna get their money at the end of the day. So it's like if you choose to cheat yourself out of 26 cents an hour and only get 26 cents that day, or that's on you. But I want to hear what Mr. Washington over here has to say.
Wow, 27 cents.
Yeah, because you did 33 years in prison, so I know
I've spent the majority of my life in the federal system. I did 10 down Lord and 23 in the feds. I've never, ever, ever made no 20-something cent an hour. I made that the most of 17 cents an hour. I stayed in food service or I stayed in the paint shop. Those were two hustling spots. I would get contracts in food service. I make it my business to supply people with certain things that they needed, like sugar and fruit and extra cereal or like cheese or whatever, whatever they wanted out of the kitchen. I made it my business to get it for them, so I could make me some extra stamps or extra coffee or a little bit extra change in my pocket. And then when I got into the paint shop, when I was in Marin, Illinois, I used to paint people's room for certain amounts of money, just to take care of myself because I ain't had anybody on the street taking care of me. Once I went to Massachusetts and got locked up, I realized while I was just sitting here listening to this topic, and you said the adjustment, I find myself doing the same thing I was doing the last 2 years of my incarceration. The last 2 years of my incarceration in Massachusetts, I was working in food service, and every day I got off work, I worked the evening shift. I would run to the library, spend an hour in the library, and go to the gym, then go to the unit. So now that I'm in the National Reentry Network for Returning Citizens, I find myself getting off work, going to the library, and then going home. It's a recycling. I see myself doing the same thing again, and it's strange you should bring this subject up. But in the prison system, when I was working in there, I've never had an employee, my boss, disrespect me. You don't say anything you want out your mouth to me because it is repercussions. On the street, I got to learn some discipline. I got to know who the boss is. I got to treat the boss like the boss. I got to be respectful. I got to treat my coworkers with respect and dignity. You understand? I got to learn how to exist with mankind, humankind, or my coworkers. I can't treat them the same way I treated the people inside. I got to look at it's a different environment. It's a completely different world from where I came from, where we came from.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
I know me myself. I did a little bit of here and there. I'm like you. I always work, and prison. When in prison, it's like, man, I ain't coming to prison to work. I ain't coming to prison to slave. I ain't gonna do this and that. But everybody do their time different. I was a worker when I was in the street. And I was a worker when I went to prison as well, because I was the type of individual that I want to be able to, take care of myself and my responsibilities as much as possible.
Yes, sir.
I had help from the outside, of course, but because not always, the type of wages you make in prison is going to be able to actually take care of your basic needs like hygiene. If you're making 26 cents an hour, what's that amount to? About $50 a month, something like that. You know what I mean? If you go to commissary and get your cosmetic items, you might get all of it. You might, but that's just it's just the reality of the thing. But I worked, and I worked down in the rec center. I worked in the kitchen. I worked as an orderly. I worked in the unicorns in the private industries. I've been orderlies and things of that manner. So, I've been in a rec center. You have a lot of freedom. You ain't gotta talk to nobody.
That's right.
You just go off and do your thing. Sometimes you might get $5 a month because they didn't put you out there as a job placement, and you don't really have to do anything. And if you did work in rec, and inside rec things that matter, or you conducted the sports, the intramural sports that they had down there on the rec yard,
right,
you might get paid a little more. Sometimes you wouldn't even get paid in wages. You might get paid 2 packs of Gatorade or something.
Extra Gatorade.
So
right.
I remember that.
But work wasn't taking that serious. It was more like a programming, unless you worked in a food service, or you worked in commissary, or you worked in the private industries and stuff like, or even medical. But these places were more so just of a programming. So you had to answer to people who are higher ups, meaning the CEOs, or if you was in medical or something like that, it would be just a doctor's name, not necessarily staff. So the accountability, there really wasn't a whole lot of accountability. Just show up, and if you do your job, okay, yeah, good. If you don't do that much, if you don't do that good of a job, okay, we'll just get by. And we'll give you some extra chemicals, take back this uncut to the unit.
Yeah, so you sell that.
So you sell that, everything like us. Even in the kitchen, if you wasn't a cook or you wasn't a prep cook or one of the midnight type individuals who work in the kitchen, you didn't get paid a whole lot of money. The grade 1s and the grade 2s, and anything outside of that, it was peanuts. So they would give you the sugar or the
vegetables,
extra meal or the vegetables to take back, so you can sell, make a hustle, because it was nothing they really do for you. So the environment was different. A lot of the staff, they were like, okay, just here's a little something to help you get by, because we don't have much. So there was a lot more lenient. It's not their corporation. It's not their business to actually be over top of you and say, hey, I need this to be, this quota needs to be out to do this or to do that. So now when we come, even with me as an orderly inside the unit, I work with the unit managers, the case managers, and the counselors, because I was like the head orderly. It wasn't like I was the head orderly, and I ran that unit for like 15 years when I was in Edgefield. Woo. So, I came and go as I wanted to. Yeah. I was doing it so much that they had to ask me about certain things. So I was the boss.
Yeah, right.
When the officer would come into the unit and say, hey, Mr. Register, what do I need to do for the day? So, hey, man, you just stay in the office. We got it. We got 2 new people. They came in. I already took care of them, this and this and that.
Right.
So everything was good. It was cool. So even when it came to lockdowns, he was like, hey, Mr. Register, you want to come out? Well, what type of question is that?
Right.
You want to come out. Even if it's just a rip and run. But I really didn't have to answer to nobody. So I was taking care of the men.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And do I needed to do, now I don't know hot stuff, but do I had to do for the staff as well, meaning the unit team. So I would work in the middle. So now coming home, it's like, okay, this is different. I'm working with an organization.
Yep.
Or you might be working with a company where you got people who are in position to where it's like, we need this done, we need that done, and we need it done by this such a time. And you getting paid to do that certain task.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You got to show up.
Yes, sir.
So, sometimes you also have, for me, I know the adjustment was about being humbled and being thankful for the opportunity to have a job and get back out there and work and put my resume together. But I guess what I'm getting at is that there was a time when I wasn't working and not getting up and not having to grind and, do an 8-hour shift. So that was a huge adjustment for me. And it plays on your psyche as far as the attitude that you're in. If you have you having a bad day, when you're not working, you can just go home and take it out on the TV or binge watch Netflix or something like that. But being at work and working with your colleagues, you have to be a team player. And I had to remind myself that I wasn't going to just be able to slack. I wasn't going to be able to just be lazy. I wasn't going to be able to not have to contribute. I had to take responsibility for my actions. So it's definitely a change in culture. And it was a shock because, like I said, I was used to being the defining my own path and defining my own day and what that looked like, and not having to, like I was saying, sit under some type of authority.
Right.
Yeah.
And I wanted to touch on some of the things you were saying, Mr. Register, because it made a lot of sense, and it actually brought me to a place where it made me think, like, yeah, we did get used to being in an environment where, we're not really taking the job that serious. So we may get a job task, like you said, when you were the head orderly in the housing unit at the jail you was at, and how you would just, the inmates ran the asylum. That's a saying. You know what I'm saying? But it's truth in it. And saying that, a lot of times the officers just come in and allow us, to take care of each other in there. And so you were able to take care of the responsibility, take care of the other men that was, like you were saying, when the 2 guys came in, you already took care of them. So I think one of the things with me is that, I got used to that. Like, you get to a certain point where, if you got a job task, you figure, okay, I got it. But see, now out here, and you work for an organization and you got a boss, you got to do it. Not I got it, is you do it this way.
Right.
in this amount of time, the way I said it.
Right.
And I mean, that's how as it should be.
Right.
Because, you know, who's ever the boss or CEO, this is their organization. You know what I'm saying? They responsible for it. So, but I mean, you just gotta, it takes some getting used to. And like Mr. Sellers was saying, as far as the authority thing, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, even though in prison we under a lot of authority, but, you know, at the same time, that authority, even though if they smart to sit back and let the inmates do their thing because they've been there, you know, we did 20 plus years. So, you know, they may have been working there 3 or 4 years. So, of course, we know how that work, how that thing run better than they do. But now in this environment, we knew.
Right.
You know, but we so stuck in our ways of the way we do things. Like, you put me on the task, man, you need to leave me alone, man. I got it.
Yeah.
But it don't work like that. It don't work like that. And yeah, that's definitely taking some adjustment.
It's also kind of like when I was on probation, the adjustment that I also had to make was my scheduling. You know, when you have to work a 9 to 5, an 8-hour shift, you know, taking off from work and, you know, trying to do drug and alcohol testing and meeting with your probation officer and going to see SOSA and things like that is an adjustment that I had to make as a person get back into the workforce to figure out how is this going to fit into my, you know, job life. And is this something I'm willing to do to make that sacrifice to say, you know what, I got to put the grind in, put the extra steps in to be, you know, responsible for my probationary period that I was on, and at the same time maintaining a job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's not easy.
Not easy. It's definitely not easy. I mean, for me, an example, I was out like a week and a half, and I started working. So a lot of things, a lot of tasks that had to be taken care of as returning citizens, going to Morca, getting our SNAP, you know, getting the smart trip cards and Medicaid, and, you know, getting a physical. To see if anything's wrong, getting doctor's appointments and all that, and all these other places. We got gun registry, gun offender registries, and paying your fine. All this, a lot of things I didn't get a chance to get. I had to do gun offender registry and meet my PO. But other than that, it's like, okay, we got these things we have to do because we got to get acclimated back in society by way of the system. But when you get a job, it's like, hey, I'm trying to get my foot in the door with my employment, you know, with my job. So you know, and I'm neglecting myself.
Yeah.
But these things need to be done. So now it gets to the point where your back is up against the wall. Now, in my case, boss, I got to go out and I got to do this. I got to go out and got to do that. Mr. Register, you sure taking a lot of days off here lately? I said, yeah, because this was stuff I neglected back then.
Yeah, but the point is, the boss ain't trying to hit that, and it's like you can't even blame him because as he should not be trying to hit, because his only concern. See, that's one thing we had to learn too is that. Ain't nobody out here worried about us in the sense that, you know, especially as far as in no job site, that, you know, you work for a company, they worried about their company, man. They worried about their company being profitable and running the way it's supposed to be running. All your personal problems and all, man, you know, so we get so used to being able, you know, even if you complaining or getting comfort from your cellie, you know, in the sense that, you know, what's going on in your life and blah, 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 blah. But like I say, when you get in this workplace, man, you know, the people don't care nothing about except for their business.
Yeah.
You know, and like I say, as they should. You know, so that's something you really got to adjust to.
When it says, like, I ain't paid you to go to your little programs and everything. I paid you to do a job.
Right. And you know, all that other stuff that you got to get this and get, get that on your time.
Yeah, and it's even to the point of even applying for a job. Man, when we was there, you want a job, you fill out a cop-out.
Put a cop-out in.
You know, you put in a request, man. I would like to work here. I got such skills. You got about 10 lines to write on and address it who you gonna address it to about this job. Out here, man, you actually got to search. You know, in there you may have somebody going and say, hey man, I'm gonna get my homie, man, back in veggie prep.
Right.
And he a good man for the job. You know, he always on time. He a good work ethic. This and that. But out here it's like, okay, you got to fill out an actual.
You talk about 10 lines on a request form. You got 10 pages now.
And they want credentials. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They want to know where you was working, and you can't put no NA because you don't feel like telling nobody what your prior history of work is. No, that's what they want to know. And if you write some NAs on that job application, guess what you're gonna do? Put it all to the side. You get through and say, "Oh, thank you for coming out. We'll be back. We'll call you if we're interested." They gonna throw that joint right in the circular file with the trash can, man. Because
They do.
Yeah, because you put NA.
Yeah, they want to know your work history. They want to know what experience you have, if you have credentials, if you've been to college or whatever. I'll share an experience that I've had when I was applying for a job while I was on probation and trying to get my life back together. The company, so here in DC, there's this thing called ban the box. So an employer can't ask you about your past or your criminal record until after you've been offered the position. And I was reading the application. I wasn't educated. I wasn't up on the legislation about ban the box, and I checked the box. I was a little naive and ignorant to the process. And when they called me in for the interview, she looked past every single thing that was on my resume, my previous work experience, my college degree, anything that would have highlighted, my skill set for the position I was applying for,
Right.
and honed in on, me having an offense and how am I going to, fit into their company because I've had this offense. And I say that to say that was a huge adjustment and a huge reality and a wake-up call for me that I had to change my mindset and what I was going to do the next time I went in on an interview. I would have to be, one, educated on the fact that I didn't have to share that information until the right time came, which would have been when I had, gotten the offer for the position. I think it was some type of entry level at a nonprofit organization. But anyway, my point is that when I was making the adjustment to get back to work or whatever, I didn't think it was going to be that hard. I didn't think it was going to be that difficult. But there are some good employers out here who will take a chance on a returning citizen.
Sure will.
And, I had to humble myself and not give up. But there are places out here where you can definitely overcome that. But I just wanted to share that because it was a huge adjustment and it knocked me off my kilter because I kept thinking, if this is the reality, I'm not going to ever get back to work. I'm not going to find a job.
Right. I know another thing we encounter in working out here in society is that, we had comrades we worked together with when we was in prison. But when we out here, we around people that really don't care about being around returning citizens. And we stick out, man. Our whole aura is different when we out here. They can tell, about our discipline, or, our stature, how we stand, and all the types of the posture. And our posture, it gives off, oh, yeah, he done been in prison. And then sometimes, the boss will leak or the supervisor will leak and say, hey, you got one that just came from prison, man. You might want to watch yourself around here. I'm not saying that's exactly how they say it, but we know. It's no secret about us when we come out, by demeanor. We had the serious look, and we're down to business, and we may not talk to everybody because we're not the type of people that actually are the ones that come and just start talking to strangers.
Right.
So we went from being in a work environment in prison where we pretty much had our comrades with us, because you know how we did, man. We want our man to be in here with us. Okay, we gonna pull some strings to get him up in here and X the other dude out because he wild. Or he a Bama, whatever the case may be. So we don't want you back here. We doing things. So you don't need to be with us. You're not to be trusted. So you pretty much in that area, you got your men with you. But out here is the exact opposite, man. You got a whole bunch of strangers.
And you got to learn how to adjust.
And you got to learn how to adjust. And now everybody wants to adjust to us. But that's not our problem. What we come out here to do is to make a living for ourselves. Let the boss know, man, we putting in hard work. We trying to move up in the ladder. We trying to get a raise and all that. But you're going to have people, man, that just don't want to see your downfall. And they will actually put stumbling blocks in your way in order to see that happen. But being as we come from that type of environment where we always look for things that happen, meaning that to be on guard and actually see it before it actually happens. And we pretty good at that.
Facts.
And so, okay, we can do the same thing in this work environment and navigate around it. But sometimes, man, it's a little it's easier said than it is done. But that's the type of challenges that we face out here. Because everybody's not happy to hear us talk about our success story from coming from prison, doing all that time, to coming home and looking to be successful. You did that? I think you should have stayed in there.
I met a woman that was like that. She said that she believes that a lot of people that done a lot of times, she doesn't think they should have came home. You should have never let those type of people out because they did such horrible things. Her and I didn't last that long. I want to give you an experience I had. My very, very first job I ever had in my life, I got in 2017 when I came home. I got a job in Bethesda, Maryland at the Modern Market. I was a dishwasher. My brother knew people there. So I was in KEG, which is a drug and rehabilitation program. I would go to work at the lunch shift and get off after dinner at 10 o'clock. There was this Spanish lady. She worked the morning shift. And each day she would leave a stack and, racks and racks of dishes and pots and everything. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Excuse my language. So I complained. I complained about it to the managers, and they said, we'd talk about it. But nobody ever talked about it. So one day I caught her there before she got off work. And I said, Mommy, what's going on, Mommy? And she just started running off with her mouth in Spanish. You got to understand, I only been home for a couple months. Mm-hmm. You got to understand, I only been home for a couple. Ain't nobody going to raise their voice at me. So I'm like, hold on, Mommy, we supposed to work together and all this. So this dude comes back there in the back in the dish area. I don't know who he was. And he said, man, you need to stop talking to her like that. Raising his voice a little bit at me. And he said something to her in Spanish, and he told me I need to watch how I talk to her. I said, man, you need to mind your business and get that from my face. And he said, well, you need to stop talking like that. You need to learn your manners and all this. I said, man, let me holler at you out back real quick. He didn't know my background. But I'm in the dish room with a lot of utensils. Right. You understand what I'm trying to say? I just came home. You're not talking to me like that. And I wasn't used to being in the work environment in society. And I'm not used to people talking any way they want to talk to me. So happened that the guy that hired me, Mr. Jamal, he was one of the Spanish dude was the manager. So the other manager came back there and asked what was going on. And I told him, I said, this man's getting all in my face and minding my business. I'm trying to talk to the lady about leaving all this stuff here. We supposed to be working together. It's supposed to be a team effort. And then she started raising her voice, and this dude, he want to raise his voice at me, so I'll need to see him outside. He said, don't worry about it, Mr. Washington. You just go ahead and take the rest of the day off, and we'll get back in touch with you. They never got back in touch with me, ever. So I stayed unemployed for a minute and a while. That's when the drinking started. I felt like a failure. I gave up, and ain't no hope for me. It wasn't no hope for me. Don't nobody want to hire a person like me. I didn't spend most of I have no skills other than I paint. I do commercial painting. Don't nobody want a commercial painting. I do landscaping, but I don't do the landscaping like they do out here. I wasn't qualified for a lot of things because of my past and my experiences. All my experiences came from prison. Then I learned, I'm a painter. I don't have to tell them that it was in prison, but I have the experience. Where did you paint at? I painted in North Carolina. I painted in Marion. Well, can we get in touch with your employers? Sure, go ahead, call them. But they never did.
Right.
And that stuff is still on my resume. And I got a landscaping job. I used to work for Furbish doing green roofing. You understand? So I still gave it a shot. I never completely gave up, because I would get jobs and then I let that substance thing get in my way. Then I let society get in my way, because I came out here blind. I just came out here rushing. I wasn't really focused on when I came home. And then last year is when I decided I had enough, and I let a lot of things go. And then I gave myself a chance, and then I got involved in this program, the Federal City program. Then I got involved with the National Reentry Network, with the workforce program. And then I changed, man. I just had a complete change of mind, and everything started to flow for me. I gave myself a chance. Yeah. You understand? I forgave myself. I let stuff go, and I just moved forward and pushed forward. Now I'm dealing with a bunch of people, you understand, on a different level. I'm seeing myself in people, in society. I see myself in people that was doing the same thing I was doing. They're not giving themselves a chance. But then I got to come up here in this building and deal with guys like you all, who we don't know each other that much, but I done got to know you all. I got to appreciate the experience of being around people who are trying to move forward, who are trying to do something with their lives, who are trying to overcome barriers.
Another thing that I wanted to comment on that, because in a similar fashion, talking about your persistence and not giving up and getting your life back on track, Mr. Washington, I realized that for myself, I also needed a mentor.
Right.
I can't see my own ears, right? So I need somebody to speak into my life, given my situation and given my time that I've had with the legal system.
Correct.
And so by finding that those people that could guide me and mentor me or whatever was an adjustment, because I had to humble myself and say, number one, I don't know it all, right? I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
And how am I going to navigate this new territory that I'm going into trying to get a job with my criminal history?
Yes, sir.
And so finding that way and finding that realization that I didn't have all the answers and didn't know humbled me and opened me up to opportunities to speak to people that would come into my life and pour into me. Whew. And it was an adjustment, but it really helped get me where I wanted to go.
Preach that word, boy.
That's
Preach
crazy.
that word.
If I can say one thing, that the whole time I've been waiting over here, waiting to speak, the two words that I kept trying to keep in my mind because I wanted to touch on, and then you just humble and adjustment. That's the key, man. Like, we got to learn how to humble ourselves. Man.
Yes, sir.
We got to learn. We got to be humble, man. And it's like we got all the reason in the world to be humble.
Yes, we do.
But a lot of times we don't be humble. We take this for granted and think that somebody owes us something, and man, nobody owes us nothing. Nobody owes us nothing. But it's a lot of opportunities out here if we are just willing to humble ourselves and be willing and open to make the adjustments that we need. You know what I'm saying? We may not even know the adjustments, but like Mr. Sellers said, that it's always good to have a mentor. And like I say, I was telling somebody today that, man, Travis Register is one of my mentors simply because he preceded me out of prison by some months. And he's not playing with this stuff out here. So therefore, he's a little bit ahead of me. So you get out there going right. He's one of my mentors because he's a couple steps ahead of me because he made it out here, a little faster than I did, and he's thriving. So yeah, like you got to humble yourself, man. You can't think you got the answers and you've been in jail for 20 years, man. Yeah, that's like
we all need
idiocy,
somebody.
Man.
Everybody needs somebody, man, and we come out here blindfolded, can't see your. I'm not gonna say them words, but I mean, you need somebody to help guide you through this thing, man. You can't do it by yourself.
You gotta be willing to accept it.
You got to be open and willing, and that word humble. Yeah. You have to be humble. Shut your mouth and listen and pay attention.
Be quick to listen and slow to speak.
Yes,
so
to
say.
Yes, sir.
We got 2 ears and 1 mouth. And I guess we're supposed to listen more and talk less.
Yes, sir.
But we got Mr. Thandor Miller in our build up, building a better version of you, and y'all too, Mr. Washington and Mr. Jones, y'all down there with him Mondays and Fridays.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, because and I tell people when we do our intakes, it's like when they come in, it's like, okay, sometimes they ask what type of job training, what type of job site you're gonna take us on to get trained. I was like, this is not your traditional or conventional job training. I said we're dealing with returning citizens. And the type of training you think you're gonna get going on site is not what you're gonna get. I said and I always tell them, I'm a returning citizen myself. I said, man, we have a way of thinking in prison, and man, it is totally opposite to what's going on out here in society.
Yes, sir.
And we got to tell that thinking has to be poured out. Yep. And something new has to be poured into us. I said, so that type of training, this job readiness training, I said, and it begins with you. There's some stuff that's in us need to be poured out, and we need to be filled back in with. And that's what Mr. Thandor Miller does on Mondays and Fridays. It was like, he be like, sometimes you tell them this, sometimes you don't tell them. When they get in class, they're like, man, what this got to do with me getting a job? First of all, your attitude is going to exude a whole lot. Right. How you present yourself is going to exude a whole lot. And how you come out your mouth and speak is going to exude a whole lot. So if you already going into an interview and you got this, man, it's the inmate against the police type thing, man, you'll get shut down before you even sit down and talk.
Right.
If you come in with some regular type of clothing on, like Mr. Stewart got everybody dressed, with business like a tie on, You got to go in there and dress to impress. When they say dress to impress, I mean really dress to impress that employer because you're trying to get a job.
Right.
Ain't nobody about to hand you nothing.
And I tell the class this all the time, man. You know, when they ask me, oh, I thought this was job training, and I said, man, you better believe it is. I said, and then once you recognize that it is, that's when you're going to get it, because finding a job is not the hard part. Getting the job and maintaining the job.
There you go.
Finding the job ain't the hard part, man. You go online, it's a million openings online. So you
a million and one.
Right. So you could find them all day. But now you have to learn how to present yourself, whereas you can get the job. And now once you get the job, you need to know how to conduct yourself in order to keep the job. Because like I say, and I'm learning. You know, I mean, we could have a whole nother session on how I'm learning in my learning curve, right? You know, you got to learn how to deal with people, man. You got to learn how to adjust your attitude. You got to learn how to humble yourself. You got to learn how to get along with others. A lot of stuff that we not used to doing in prison, man. You got to learn, and you got to be willing. You got to be open and willing to change. And like I say, we could have a different session, and my colleagues can tell you about my learning curve. But I'm going through it, man. But guess what? I'm gonna make it, man. I'm gonna make it, man, because I'm determined to make it. You know what I'm saying? But and also I know that it's a lot that I have to change and adjustments I have to make in order to adjust to this environment. But I'm determined to do it, man. You know, I'm determined.
If you're determined, you're going to do it.
That's right.
That's what. Well, look here, y'all. I think we done wrapped up our little discussion. Well, I'm going to say it's not little, because this is a big discussion, because this is something serious. Everybody who's coming home from prison, for the most part, has to endure the adjustment of working in an employment situation. I mean, or in a work environment as freedom. You know, so I hope to the listeners out there, and I hope that we have shed some light on the issues that you may be going through. Open your eyes, and also encourage you to do the same thing. You know, be humble and adjust and be patient.
Yes, sir.
We always close out when we have guests with words of encouragement or something to grow on. So, Mr. Jones, we're gonna start from you, man. You know, you give the listeners something to grow on. Then we'll start, and then you, Mr. Foster, and then you, Mr. Washington.
I was trying to remember the Kendrick Lamar song, "The Humble Joint." How to
sit down, be humble.
Sit down, be humble.
Sit down, be humble.
Sit down. Yeah, that's how I want to close. That's what I mean. That, man.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'll just reiterate about, making the adjustment into the workforce as returning citizens is to stay focused, keep your eyes on the prize, and don't be afraid to ask for help, because, we all have, made mistakes in our life. We haven't dotted every I and crossed every T. But the sign for you needing help and your willingness to learn will go far.
Good words, good words. Mr. Washington.
I want to give honor to where they're due. And this is special for every returning citizen and anyone else that's paying attention. Always remember that you're a unique individual. Always remember that you had it within you at all times, that you are a winner, and that there's nothing that can get in your way but you. Take time to get to know who you are before you step out there, man. Just know that you are a winner and you got that unique gift inside of you. You understand? Just be patient with it.
This is the NRC Black Table Talk podcast, y'all. We talked about returning citizens adjusting to the work environment here in free society. Hope y'all got something, and I hope y'all take it with you. What we're going to do is we're going to sign out. We're never signing off, because here at the NRC, we got boots to the ground, always work to do. Y'all do good.